G'day guys and welcome back to another video. In today's video we're going to have an in-depth look at the Hornady Classic Lock and Load kit. I've used it for a number of years and I'm going to tell you what I like, what I don't like, what I no longer use and what is still relevant. So I bought this kit a long time ago. I'm trying to think of when that was. It was probably at least 5 years ago, if not longer, and I've used it for a long time. You can see how rusty that all is because it does get used all the time. It's still very smooth, but I just wanted to go through the things I do use and the things I don't use, and if I would buy this as a kit again. I've got a list here off their website of what comes with the kit, just so I made sure I covered everything. So we'll just go through that and then I'll give you some information about the press itself. So we have the press, which is here. Now it's an O-frame press. It's not the tallest press in the world, but it's not exactly the shortest. There you go, that's a 300 WinMag case, just for reference of how tall that is. Let's grab, I don't know, that's a 470 Nitro case, so you could potentially be loading that. You might not get the bullets in there though. So that just gives you an idea of how tall that is. We have the priming tool, so that goes just in there. So you can load a primer into it and then you push down that way and it would squeeze it up, prime your case, etc. You also need that in when you're decapping, so I've got a universal decapping pin, or you can use, your sizing die, whatever. And then you've got the little catcher which goes in there, and they come out, they hit that, and they go into there. They don't always go into there, sometimes they go the opposite direction, so it is a little bit finicky at times. So yeah. Alright, it comes with a 3 die bushings, which are these, because it is the lock and load system. We're going to talk a lot more about the lock and load system and the die bushings in a minute, but it comes with 3 of them. We've got our powder funnel, which can go all the way down to a 2 to 3 size case and all the way up to, I believe, this would be big enough to do, where's my dummies? Alright, that won't fit the 470 Nitro, but it definitely fits a 458. So you can get a lot of different cartridges loaded with that powder funnel. We have the powder trickler, just that little guy there, just a plastic little jobby with a brass trickle thingy in it. We have the powder thrower, which is up here, mounted to the desk. We've got the case lube. This case lube is actually really good. This is their unique case lube. I believe nowadays when you buy this, it comes with Hornady One Shot. Hornady One Shot is actually really good case lube. This does kind of like Imperial sizing die wax, but different. I've used this a lot in 5 years and I've used fuck all of it, although I do use other types. Now, this stuff is good. You've got to be very sparing with it because you can dent your cases. If you use too much, it will not end well for you. We have the reloading book, which is over in my bookcase in there, and I've also got the later version. So it came with the 10th edition, and then I bought the 11th edition later. Comes with a digital scale. I no longer have the digital scale because I traded it to a mate of mine for some other things I was after, because I wasn't using it because I used the Lyman Gen 6 for powder throwing now. That's the pen that came with that scale, so I've still got that part of it. We have our cartridge case block, or whatever you want to call it. What do they call it? Hornady calls that universal loading tray. So you can see there the calibers it does, and on that side the others it does. We have our hand priming tool and accessories all here, and we have our chamfer deburring tool. Now on the website it says only that component, but I think it came with that. I can't remember if I bought that separately. I may have. So for the talking about this in the kit, it doesn't say it sells it on the website, so I'm going to assume that it didn't, but if it did, then it did, but I'll just put that off to the side now. Yeah, the chamfer deburring tool. So, out of all of the junk that comes with it, What are the things that I still use? I still use the case lube every now and again when I'm not using either One Shot or I think I had some of the Lyman stuff at one point. Can't really remember. One Shot is pretty good. The digital scale I don't use anymore, neither with that pan, obviously, because I have that. If I didn't have that, I would use that. And because I also have that and it does trickling, I don't use the powder trickler either. I use the hand priming tool because I don't like priming in the press. It's too slow. That's really fast. That does perfectly fine for me. I still use the funnel. That funnel is awesome. I still use the loading block for pretty much everything, and I still use that. I don't use the chamfer and deburring tool, because you can probably see in the background I have a Lyman one, which is much better because this is really small to hold onto, and you get really, really tired fingers if you're doing a lot of cases in a row, whereas this fits in your hand a lot nicer. And this has the attachments that does the job of that for doing your private pockets. So this tool has taken the place of those two, so they'll go over in the non-used pile. The press, as I said, comes with these bushings. Now, this is all well and good. This is a really, really good idea if you are using Hornady dies. If you're not using Hornady dies, I would say probably don't get this press because it will cause you more dramas than it's worth. For starters, these, when they're installed onto the dies, will fit back into the boxes. Now, all of those have die bushings on them, the lock and load bushings. So if you come over here and you can see the Leaning Tower of Pisa, that is because I have some of those dies with the lock and load bushings on them, and they don't fit back in the Lee boxes. Now, I use a lot of Lee dies because I load for a lot of different cartridges. Lee's not the best brand in the world, and I've noticed that with the fact that I've got two 458 Win Mag die sets, and that's because one of them is actually fucked and it sizes the cases too much, and it causes a lot of issues. I should probably need to throw that one in the bin. So that is really, really annoying. And so you can see I use a lot of different brands. I've got RCBS, I've got Reading, I use Hornady, and I've got a lot of Lee. I use the Lee Quick Trim, so I've got a lot of, dies for that. I've got a bullet puller, I've got a universal decapper. That's an extra crimp die for the 458. These are some more Lee trim dies. What's this one? Oh, and there's an extra set of 6.5 Creedmoor dies. So I've got a lot of dies. Now, if I was going to put bushings on all of them, you can see here I've got more and more bushings, and you can see there how fucking expensive they are. $130 for a 10-pack. And if I was to put them on every single die, I would need probably 30 or 40 of those bushings. So one, they're expensive. Two, they don't fit into the boxes very well, which is an absolute bugbear of mine. Three, I don't think it really saves that much time. Like, yeah, you've got to screw your dies in, but if they've got a lock on them, like this style of lock, is fine. Like these Lee ones don't lock like that, which means you might have to reset them every time. So the Lee ones are good to have those on because you don't have to change the settings or whatever, but it's cheaper and easier to convert those to lockable ones than it is to get die bushing lock and load things. So what I'm doing, I'm not going to replace this press. However, I am going to modify it. So in here is the 1 1/4 14 thread, which is your standard like 50 BMG, etc. Not that you would get the height out of it, but you can get an adapter, which that's what I've just paid for, is an adapter to adapt down to 7/8, which is that. So essentially I eliminate all of this. I'll be able to pull this out, screw the new one in, and I can just use it like a normal press. Now, the Lee version, the Lee Classic, that does have these similar style bushings, actually has like a lock pin on top. So you could put that in and then lock it. If you only have one, that's locked, and then you can use that like a standard press. Now, there isn't the option to do this. Realistically, I could drill and tap and put my own one in there, then I just have to, divot cut, one, but the adapted bushing was like $30 anyway, so I'm just gonna go and do that. Saves me buying a whole new press, because there's nothing really wrong with that press. The only thing I don't like about it is those die bushings. I like, the double linkages here. I like the amount of pressure I get out of it. It's smooth, it works well. Anyone looking at one of these, if you don't want to stick with Hornady dies, I would say don't get the lock and load. just go and get like a Lee Classic. They're cheaper, and Lee Classics are really, really good, which is what I had before the Hornady, and I really wish I kept it because, you know, I kind of got sucked into the marketing of like Lock and Load, Hornady. You know, as Hornady does, they're really, really big powerhouses in marketing, but their products aren't always the best. Now, I do have a lot of Hornady stuff, particularly bullets. As you can see up there in my bullet collection, I have a lot of Hornady. I've shot a lot of animals with Hornady, and they haven't always come through with the goods. I've killed a lot of things, but they don't perform exactly as they are advertised. Let's just put it that way. So let's wrap this up. The press is really good. I don't like Lock and Load. These accessories are all very, very useful. Those accessories for me are not so useful. Would it be worthwhile buying the kit? I think yes, to start off. If you're just starting off, you know, buy the kit. There are other brands that do kits as well. I believe RCBS does a kit, and I think Lee does a kit, just off the top of my head. So potentially look into one of those other kits to see which components they come with. This could be information you could use across all of those brands, because I believe they're all fairly similar. So guys, I really hope you got something out of that. I hope that was informative. I hope that that helps you make a good decision moving into buying a reloading kit. I'll see you next video, and hooroo.